Is your church growing? Well, I suppose there's no way to tell these days. We've hit a bit of a snag in our calculations because the virus has emptied our sanctuaries and there's no way to tell who's in and who's out. So there's a growing chatter on the internet among church leaders worried that they are not quite sure whether the church is increasing or decreasing. To make matters worse, church shopping has become a lot easier. You don't have to try to actually make your way to the local church. You can just click your mouse and pick the best online service. So then it may turn out that after this whole thing is over, a whole bunch of people have gone to where the services were best, had the best lights, best production, best smoke machines. So people are beginning to worry. They don't know what to count. The truth is they've always had difficulty knowing exactly what to count. The people who were trying to help us with that have told us that what we should be counting at first was the people who were there on a Sunday morning. But then over the years, we've noticed that a great many people who are there Sunday in, Sunday out are really accidental tourists. They come and they sort of play musical chairs, As long as they like the music, or they like the sermon, or they like what's going on in the church, they stay. But the Sunday when the message is actually about them, they hear truth where God is pointing finger at their lives. They pick up and go to another church where they feel more comfortable, where people actually preach the gospel. They stay for a few weeks, they stay for a few years. When the Sunday comes, they leave. So you can try to count people in the church on a Sunday, but that doesn't mean that they belong. And so then we tried to get people to sign their names on a dotted line, try the whole business of membership. But that certainly doesn't work in a world of people accustomed to being consumers, looking for a product. You try them to commit to a business and they are all about the cheapest price. And then they told us to count the baptisms. But of course, that doesn't work quite well because the Reformed churches who baptize children discovered that by the time they hit 16 or 18 years old, they're all gone. So that didn't help much. And for the folks who count, the mature believers' baptism, discovered that stepping into water has very little to do for people these days with actually being disciples of Jesus or even being committed to the local body of believers. So we don't quite know what to count. But then it's very hard to get away from the question why it is that we've come to obsess about church growth, quantifying the life of the church, making sure that Sunday after Sunday we post the numbers. I suppose we came to that conviction because we thought that if we are adding things, that means that things are growing. Growing means that we are progressing. And in our world, bigger is always better. Of course, we didn't want to admit to this as readily. We on this side of the equation, people who try to somewhat detach from that quantification of life around us, have said that we don't really care about numbers. We care about the health of the church. And healthy things grow. Well, they do. But then there's cancer. We try to justify our count by looking into the scriptures. We noticed in that story of the church being born, in the book of Acts, after the first sermon that is preached, it says that 3,000 people were added to their number. We say, there you have it. See, somebody counted. About 3,000 new people. Except when you read that text with care, you'll discover that it says that, and the Lord added to their number. It says it twice in the book of Acts when the church grows, that the Lord added to their number. They gave themselves to what God has called them to do, and the Lord added to their number. That's a great warning to us that perhaps when it comes to the growth of the church, when we're trying to count people and taking responsibility for growing our churches, we're doing something that we've never been called to do. Because growing a church, adding to our numbers is God's business. Jesus said he will build his church. So if you have people coming your way, offering you seminars, conferences on church growth, telling how you can grow your church. Well, first of all, it's not your church. It's the church of Jesus Christ. And second of all, if anybody comes and tells you that they can give you strategy for growing the church of Jesus Christ, perhaps you need to take a few steps back and reflect that, look, I've been trying. I can't grow a single hair on my head. You can't grow any hair on your chest. And you think you are going to grow the church of Jesus Christ. But there is by far bigger problem with us trying to quantify the life of the church. And it has to do with the mission to which we're called. So we were called to make disciples of Jesus Christ. Making disciples is remaking people for eternal relationship with God. And that relationship is defined by love. We're to love God absolutely, love people unconditionally. Jesus said that really the only way we will be able to tell whether we're truly belonging to his church is by how much we love the people who belong to him. So when it comes to love, it's the kind of love that has no exception clause when it comes to God. Has no strings attached when it comes to other people. But you see, when it comes to love, the question is, how do you quantify love? I don't think you can do it. And now, if I told you that I have increased my love toward my wife by 18% in the past quarter, that'd be surprising, wouldn't it? I did it because I now wash the floors in the bathrooms twice, during the week rather than once before. I go shopping 4 times in a week rather than like I used to, 2 or 3 times. I have been bringing her flowers at the increased frequency, and I buy her little gifts, more often than I did before. And the important part is that I've been telling her that I love her. 3.2 times more often than I did before. So overall, I quantify my love and I say I've increased my love by a percentage point. If I told you that, you'd think I'm an idiot. It'd be right to do that because you can't quantify love like this. You can't measure how many times you take out the garbage or how much you wash the floors or how many nice things you say to your wife and say, well, that's love. And the love that the Bible describes is not about adding, it's about subtracting, giving away of yourself to other person. And so we give until we run on empty at the end of our lives. With the last breath, you've given everything we've had. But how do you quantify that? It's pious nonsense to think that we can somehow measure that. So, with that obsession of us counting now, ever growing and increasing because we can't point to a person in the pew. We think that perhaps the best way to, what we can do now is to actually count the eyes on the screen. But I wouldn't bother, that's just a delusion. It doesn't matter how many hits your online service gets any given Sunday. Because most of the people who are looking at you from the distance of that screen to their couch, well, these are just religious voyeurs. They come and go and you cannot count on them. They'll be there today, gone tomorrow, gone with the better show somewhere else. And there's a bigger problem with that. It doesn't matter how many eyes are looking at the screen watching your service on a Sunday morning. None of that matters. Because if our mission is about loving people to life, you cannot love people virtually. So if you're worried about whether your church is growing or not, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. You give all that God has given to you to people who don't deserve it. And God will worry about adding to his church.